to be smart, Alex.
I was encouraging everything about their children that they didn't like, and I was happy to do that.
And why? How did you live with yourself doing something like that?
Well, I don't really care about anything. Authority.
Even then?
No, I think even then. I've only articulated it better for myself more recently. Mm-hmm. This sort of abandoning of all order and structure and caring about the outcome in the world and whether a bill gets passed and whether or not some nation is saved. I think I've only recently learned how to speak about the fact that I don't care about it. I think it was always a part of me. I think I'm a quintessential loner, and at the root of that is I don't identify with the local group. Abraham Maslow said the most realized of men does not identify with the local group. That is the human race, for an example, and certainly any other kind of group, local or otherwise. And I just never have had an affinity for sitting around with groups of people who had supposedly like-minded ideas.
But somebody's got to run the country. I mean,
that's fine. Let them do it.
Did you think that those kids you were encouraging had something better than their parents did?
Well, I think encouraging is taking it an awfully long way. I think what I did always was to try to be myself on stage and express my own sense of anarchy.
And what they did with it was their business.
Because it's not a class. Yeah. It was entertainment. There's a degree of art in it, but it's essentially a show. Entertainment. It's not a physics class. I think they know the difference between being instructed to do something and watching someone act out.
I wonder, though, that from what I hear, the general belief now is that Hollywood can make a good kid go out and kill somebody if he sees it on the movie screen.
Well, that's the free market. You conservatives are supposed to be really in favor of the free market, so let them live with that.
Well, that's true. That's true. But they don't like the effects of it. They want to ban it.
Yeah, they want to ban anything. This is a country very much involved in everyone else's behavior. It's rarely that you talk to someone who doesn't have an idea how he can improve the person across the street, what he might do to move in there and just shape that family up real good.
You ever felt the need to improve anybody, huh?
No, sir.
I mean, you complain a lot about him in this book. You don't have any suggestions for making
No, that's not my job. There are others who have suggestions, and the suggestions seem to get worse and worse. I noticed the law of unintended consequences generally, when they propose a solution to something, if it's put into practice, there are generally 3 or 4 more serious problems that emerge from it 10 years later. So I think it's a game. I think it's a con. I think it's a circus. I think it's a joke. I think it's a cavalcade. I think it's a big parade. I think it's fun to watch, and I don't think it means anything.
I guess you don't believe in cloning people then, huh?
I think that would be wonderful. Anything to begin to hasten the downward spiral. I think it would be wonderful to have all sorts of problems with clones and of different ages.
Anything for more material, huh?
Anything for more material. That's right.
Like there's a problem. Like there's a problem gathering material in 1997.
No way.
So you implied in what you were saying that for a long time you knew that you were a loner, but couldn't actually spell it out. You couldn't actually explain.
That's right.
So did you go through, were you going through soul searching, trying to figure out whether you had a future as a comedian, or whether you were a philosopher, a comedian, or what you were?
No, I've never sort of sat back and tried to gather myself or to pull together, all of where I am and where I'm going. I really just sort of react. I think all the good work, all the art goes on beneath the surface. I think most writers would tell you that. It's a subconscious process, and then we do some skimming and some straightening and ordering, and it becomes a finished piece. But I think most of life is that way. I think most of our processes go on unnoticed by us, and then occasionally we wake up and we say, oh, this is what now I see what I'm doing and who okay, I get it. So it's always been that way with me. I've never really pushed in life. I'd say I was very driven about getting my career, having my career, being able to work in front of people. But outside of that need to be somewhere physically to do that, everything else is sort of, I just kind of let it roll into place, and I just discovered sort of, this is good. I mean, it was only this last burst of energy that changed the stand-up work for me so much since 1990. I didn't notice what was going on until after the fact. Sometime in 1993, after the Madison Square Garden show, I said to myself, this thing has been kicked up to a different level now for me. There's a greater intensity in the work. And several comedians, and that was what woke me up, I think, because, excuse me, I'm drinking water, because I don't hang out with comics or with show business folks generally. Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling, Eddie Murphy, Bobcat Goldthwait, and several others on different occasions, separate occasions after that show in '92, said something to me to the effect of, "You really did something different this last time, Carlin. You have changed the deal a little bit. You have kicked it up to another level, either for yourself or for us too." And when I heard that, because comedians are notoriously stingy with praise amongst themselves, with each other, that is.
Sure.
And so that really grabbed me, and I looked at it a little more carefully, and I saw that at least I think what I saw was that I had really abandoned all hope. I had given up that liberal political comic, social commentary comedian undertone of, gee, folks, if only we'd act better, everything would be all right. Well, I don't believe that, and I never was very comfortable. If I did say anything that seemed like that, I don't think I ever really believed it.
So for a long time you were a hypocrite yourself.
I probably was, but I think you can, I don't know if it's a hypocrite if you don't see it yourself. I think a hypocrite is someone who really knows he's two-faced and he has two messages. I really was caught up in finding out who I was, and that's who I was at that time. But I never really proselytized. I never really believed sitting around holding hands was going to move the Pentagon or even going to change City Hall's decision on something. I never cared about that communal stuff.
Well, Kumbaya, that might have done it.
That was the big thing.
That one more time. So, so Jerry Seinfeld likes you. Is he worth $1 million an episode, do you think?
I watched that show, and I'm pretty critical of these sitcoms. I think Third Rock from the Sun and Jerry's Show are wonderful shows. That's my personal, that goes through my screen that way. I love that writing, and I love the way he handles that character, that sort of aloof, but, sort of involved, but you can tell this, he's ignoring everything, really. I don't know. These things are very subjective, but I think in the marketplace today, he can get his $1 million.
Stand by. I'll be back with George Carlin. We'll take your calls, too, at 421-KIRO, 800-KIRO-710. Or if you are moving and you think you can also coordinate the cell phone, pound 800-710-KIRO. This is the Dave Ross Show, and we'll be right back. 10:26 on the Dave Ross Show from Cairo News Radio 710. George Carlin is here, the author of Brain Droppings, his latest book / manifesto.
Entertainment,
everything. Nothing is censored in this. When I saw that you acknowledged the help of your editor, the first thing I said to myself was, who's going to edit him? I mean, what's an editor going to do?
Well, what Laurie did, Laurie Apkemeyer, was I sent in this stack of disparate items, everything from one line to 4- and 5-page screeds, everything from whimsy and innocence to anger and stridency and analysis of language, all the things I usually like to draw from. And it was all quite undifferentiated. She just had a pile of stuff there, and so she found a rough order. I mean, it's not apparent if you're just reading the jokes and reading the words, but if you step back from the book a little and look at what she did, there's a sense of organization to it. So she did that, and she guided me, and she let me know I was kind of free and able to do.
When you've included the transcripts of a couple of complete routines here.
Yeah,
now, when you do a routine like that, do you write out every word and memorize it and make sure you deliver it word for word each time? Is it that carefully prepared? Or?
I do. The beginning stages, everything's obviously a little looser.
Right.
But my goal, because I'm a polisher, that's the way I like to work, my goal is to write something, revise it, endlessly revise. Do it in front of my audiences. I don't go somewhere to try it out on people. I do it for my audiences because that's where I expect it to work ultimately. And it just grows and takes shape in front of them, and it gets more and more solidly locked into place until it is literally a verbatim performance. And that's when I hope to have the HBO show ready. About every 2 years, I try to have an hour that meets the description of what I just said to you.
Let's go to Craig calling us from his car. Craig, good morning. You're on Cairo.
Morning, Dave. Morning, George.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Just wanted to say, back in '72 on your FM&M album, you did a bit about Ed Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
And you said, hey, thanks, Ed. I just wanted to say thank you for all your efforts in the last 40 years, because I think you really have made a difference.
Well, I thank you for that, and Ed helped open the door for me.
Thanks, Craig. Let's go to Artie in Fremont. Artie, good morning. You're on Cairo.
Hi, George.
Yes, how are you?
I have leukemia.
I see.
And I've been doing chemo and radiation therapy.
Yes.
And I would like to, I've been listening to some of your routines on your tapes that you've been distributing.
Yes.
And
just like to thank you for helping me through the treatment, because your routines give me the strength to, go through all this stuff. And I'd like to thank you for doing such a good job.
Well, you want to remember it's your strength. I'm the outside thing, perhaps touching you, but you're the one who's reaching down. So give yourself the credit, and thank you for this call. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Artie. You're giving people hope in spite of yourself, fella. You better watch it.
Maybe that's the way to do it.
10:29, Dave Ross Show. We'll be right back after this. 10:34 on the Dave Ross Show, KIRO News Radio 710. Comedian and now author George Carlin is here. His latest book is called Brain Droppings, a collection of routines, wordplay, philosophy, wisdom, and, plenty of obscenity, too.
Oh, and let me say, I think you pointed it out before, only two pieces in there are actually from the past.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the baseball and football comparisons, and the piece called A Place for My Stuff, all about your stuff. Everything else is brand new to the eye or ear, if you followed me, and if you haven't followed me, the whole thing's new.
Let's go to Helen, calling from the U District. Helen, good morning. You're on KIRO.
Good morning to both of you.
Hi.
George Carlin,
Hi, Helen.
cultural observer.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, your mind has fascinated me ever since you first came on the scene. And I really have loved the fact that you are a true wordsmith. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is everything that you have done original to you. I mean, well, everybody draws from something else, but the baseball, football thing, I think, is so wonderful. I think it's a piece of Americana that is almost Shakespearean in the fact that it will last.
Cow.
I mean this.
Thick in here. You sure you didn't plagiarize any of that stuff, George? From
no, the answer to that part of the question, Helen, is I've always written my own things. Naturally, we draw on all the things we see and hear. I have no idea what things I may have inadvertently plagiarized, but I don't know of any. And that piece just occurred to me because I enjoy patterns. I enjoy noticing patterns. I think that's part of the way I do my work. And it just, I started collecting. I've saved every little notion or idea that I've ever had that I thought was promising over the years. And after a while, they begin to, you notice patterns. You say, wait a minute, this one is like something. Let me go find that other thing. Oh, yeah, here it is. Oh, these two, yeah. Oh, and that third thing. And suddenly you have a small pile of ideas that have something in common, and that's how the thing begins. And then the mind takes over and starts to do its own work.
Well, it's just truly wonderful. And but I have a question, and my question is, I don't have access. I don't have cable, so of course I've missed all your HBO specials. But so I don't know. Maybe you're doing this more, but I've seen you whenever you're on a talk show.
Sure.
And what I've noticed is, unlike most other comedians, you don't delve heavily into the man-woman question.
That's right.
Why?
Because I'm waiting to do that. There are some things that are so important. I mean, and I don't mean this facetiously. These are after-the-fact observations of mine. I didn't plan to think this way. But there are some things that are so big that I think they deserve a long inspection and determination. In other words, I've never dealt with men and women on the cheap, easy level. Dating, my wife shopping, and all of these superficial things. What I really would like to talk about is the two sexes. And I have a piece that I have written. It's been written for about 4 years. I'm just not ready to do it yet. It's going to take a horrendous amount of memorization, because part of it is a tour de force. Part of it is just a long list of all the garments that women have to wear. And what this is, and this is a very close inspection at what it is women have to put up with in the world versus what it is men have to put up with in the world. And then let you draw the conclusions yourself, although I heavily give you my opinion all along the way. That piece, I'd like to have that ready for next year's HBO. I try to do an HBO every 2 years, and I'm due for one in '98, and I'd like to have that piece ready, but I'm going to have to spend a month memorizing not just the garments, but everything that goes into the hair, all the hair things, all of the perfumes and the pins and the bobbins and beetles.
So 4 years in research, then a month in memorization. You go through more preparation for a routine than the Pentagon does for a new weapon system. Huh?
I think I do sometimes. But that is in the offing.
We'll take a break.
That is down there.
We'll take a break at 10:38 on the Dave Ross Show. Be right back. Stand by. That's what Dad wants to do on Father's Day. Run for 10 miles and work up a sweat with the kids. Yeah. 10:42, Dave Ross Show from Carlin News Radio 710. George Carlin is here. And you mentioned in your book that you live in OJ's neighborhood, huh?
Yes, sir.
That's got to be pretty exciting.
Well, you know, I said to you off microphone the day the Bronco turned around. That'd make a title for a book, wouldn't it? The day the Bronco
turned around.
When he was down on I-5 and they decided to go back to Brentwood, we were watching on TV as everyone was, and I said to Brenda, because he lives only 2 blocks away, I said, Brenda, they're turning around. They must be coming back to Brentwood. Let's go out and watch these choppers come, because you could tell from the number of screens there were. I mean, the number of channels that were on, there were a lot of choppers. So they came like Apocalypse Now over the treetops. It was wonderful. There were actually 13 altogether, 13 helicopters and 2 fixed-wing aircraft circling the house for several hours, probably 12 hours, and it was just exciting. I love events. I love excitement, breaking news. So when they throw that thing up on CNN, breaking news, I stop I just want to know who's dead, what happened, how many did they kill.
So you went out and looked for yourself.
I went out to see those.
I guess you weren't the guy holding the John 3:16 sign.
No, not I. But I did have to give up the end of the Knicks game to go out and do it.
Let's go to Kathy in Mount Vernon. Kathy, good morning. You're on KIRO.
Hi, good morning, Dave.
Hi.
Hi, George Carlin.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I hope you don't mind if I gush a bit here.
Okay.
Everybody else, you might as well.
Yeah.
I love the way you skate on the edge of like serious thought and hilarity, and you point out how human we are, like a comedian anthropologist.
Wow, thank you.
I just really appreciated your intelligence and the fact that you crack everybody up. I just want to know, do you have any kids?
I have a grown daughter, Kelly. Kelly's in her early 30s, works in documentary films, and actually is going to be coming to work with us at our on our production company, trying to do a few projects, develop some things that I'm not in, things that I don't have my face on. So I'm quite proud of Kelly. She's a well-rounded, and she's just a prize.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
And you've been married for 37 years?
I was. Unfortunately, last month, you might know my wife died.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she died on Mother's Day. Yeah.
37 years, though, in this business is rare.
Absolutely, and maybe even in general. Although a lot of 37-year marriages are people who are just hanging in there, gritting their teeth. You see them at dinner tables in restaurants, not talking. But we had a good, sweet romance. We had a wonderful American romance. I met Brenda in Dayton, Ohio, and we fell in love, and we were married within a year in her mother's home, her father and mother's home in Dayton. And we jumped in the Dodge Dart and just started driving around and trying to build a career and have a little home and put off having a family. But then Kelly came along, so we took her on the road in the Dodge Dart for a while. And
that's so middle class.
I know, but it's no, I don't know. I don't think the middle class. I think the middle class, you better get a job and get down to the mill, Harry. Getting in the Dodge Dart and leaving town doesn't sound that way to me.
Let's go to Jim in Bellevue. Jim, good morning. You're on KIRO.
Good morning. Yeah, I was wondering, so that us in the choir could keep up with your day-to-day commentary on current events.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a current radio show that we can maybe pick up somewhere, or are you thinking about
No.
doing one?
I don't deal much in topical humor. I do talk about things that occur, that appear in the news as longer-term issues, longer-term things like war and death and killing and sex and all that. But I don't generally jump on the Newt Gingrich story or the Al Gore story because, first of all, I don't like to sound like all the others. I think it's easy to sound like everyone else. And secondly, I hate to throw away some good piece of material that suddenly is dated 5 days later. And in fact, the tendency is to hold on to it too long, and then you really look stupid. Not only do you look like everyone else, but you're dated.
Well, the other thing is you're going to take 4 years to write one routine. You're going to have trouble doing a daily radio show.
That's right.
I'll tell you that
You
right.
betcha. Let me one further thing on answering that question. I do get on Imus now and then, and I'm able to do a few things that are more current, and I intend to do a little more of that in the future.
Jim, thanks for the call. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Jim.
it. Here's Ron in Tacoma. Ron, good morning. You're on KIRO.
Good morning, Dave, and thanks a lot for having George on. And George,
Hi there.
well, we caught you on Politically Incorrect the other night.
Ah, yes.
And you were overtalked when you made the comment about the comet coming. You recall that?
Yes.
Well, my wife looked at me and said, "My God, he's your clone."
Really?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You root for the big asteroid too?
I've even got a balding top of my head and a scruffy gray beard. But
it's going to be so nice when it comes and sets things right, and then I hope what happens is the dinosaurs reemerge, and then another one comes and wipes their ass out again a second time, just for fun.
Hey, I just want to ask, because I'm so cynical, it's hard to get through the day without blowing my brains out. How in the world do you cope?
Well, you see, I really think that word cynical is a word I've wrestled with. I understand that there is a definition of it that you're using and that can be applied to me. But I think the really cynical people are the people who run things. I think the people who make the decisions, who say we're going to send 80,000 boys over here and we're going to send 20,000 over there and we're not going to get them all back, but we need to open up that market. We need to open up that market. That's the cynicism. I think we're skeptics. But, you can you take the label if you like. But the way you keep from blowing your brains out is to realize that none of this matters. This is a circus. It's here for you. Philosophers have said for years, why are we here? Why do I exist? I'm here for the show. I'm here for the show. Start the show. Let me see some action. That's the way I look at it.
Can I make one final statement?
Sure.
Every time I see a shoe laying by itself in the roadway, I think of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
George.
for the call.
Okay.
Let's go to Larry calling us from his car. Larry, good morning. You're on KIRO.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello, Larry.
Did I hear Lowry?
No, I said Larry. Hi, Larry.
I always give East Coasters a hard time about pronouncing the Lowry.
Not me.
Oh, come on. Anyway, I tuned in late, so first of all, I'm asking, what brings you to our fine area?
I've written a book called Brain Droppings, which is next week number 13 on the New York Times list, and so I'm out promoting it, trying to make it get higher on that list.
Aha. Where will you be promoting it?
I'm doing that now on the radio, and there's a book signing tonight. I wish I had that. Oh, University Bookstore out there near the university, oddly enough.
Ah, okay. Next question I had was, how's your health?
My health is generally good. I get a heart attack about every 6 or 7 years, but they don't seem to bother me.
Okay.
I rarely get much discomfort from them, and the next day they're all right because I've had about 5 angioplasties. I've never had a open chest surgery or open shirt surgery, but I have had angioplasties that have held up very well.
I see. And finally, because I do enjoy Dave's show most of the time, and I've only seen pictures of him at the Kingdom Diamond Vision and whatnot at the Mariners games. What's your take on this guy? What do you think about Dave?
Dave, obviously everyone knows he looks like Dennis Miller.
Yes.
And he sounds like a bright fellow. I wish I were here for 3 or 4 weeks and I could listen to some shows and get a broader picture. I'm sure he's a cool guy.
What are you really trying to find out, Larry? What is it?
Well, and I hate to give anybody a pat on the back that's in the media, but for the most part, you really seem, as far as I'm concerned, mainstream as far as, you got some right, some left, you what's right.
Compulsively normal, Larry. Is that what it is?
Yes, very much so, because I as well am normal, like yourself.
I see.
And George. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks
Good to talk to you, Larry.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye, fella. 10:50 on the Dave Ross Show. We'll be right back. Stand by. 10:53, Dave Ross Show from KIRO News Radio 710. A few minutes left with George Carlin, who's going to be at the University Bookstore, the one up in the U District at 7 o'clock, 7 until 8. Then he catches a plane out of town.
Out of town.
So, rooting for the asteroid. It must have really depressed you to hear the news last week that the Earth is being pelted every day by hundreds of these interstellar snowballs, and they're having no effect whatsoever.
Well, they're only little ones. Listen, I'm looking for the big 5-mile guy. Let me say, I root for it to come through the ozone hole, just as a poetic touch. And I root for it to fall east of me so that I can watch 23 hours of CNN as the dust cloud envelops the Earth before it gets to my house.
Yes, that's right.
Because I want to see the fun.
And then you will cheerfully accept annihilation, huh?
By the way, you know something? NASA has a program to detect. There are some various programs to detect these Earth. I wish I had my terminology correct. Earth interception, things that are on a collision course, presumably, whether they're comets or asteroids.
Right.
And there is actually a cutoff point as to the plan, and I have all of this in my computer. I must not do these things until I memorize them better, but I'm going to try this anyway. There is actually a plan at NASA beyond which, if it's 1 billion people, if they think the thing is going to kill 1 billion people, they will send out their rockets to try to divert it or explode it or do something to it. If it's less than 1 billion, they're not going to bother. I love that. There's a certain number. It's cost effectiveness. It's just like the Ford vans, It's the same thing.
They just go in that underground bunker in Maryland there and then wait it out.
Iron Mountain.
Do you ever give commencement addresses? I would think that your commencement address would be a particularly depressing one for somebody just going out into the world.
I would say just do what you want. It would be very short. Do whatever you want. I saw a bunch of those short clips from commencement addresses by celebrities over the weekend. And boy, if there was ever anything that would keep me from delivering one of those addresses, it was was seeing that series of clips. I'd like to write one and print it and just abandon the whole idea.
I don't suppose that's coming, is it?
No.
No.
Well, no, the next book, maybe.
Next book, maybe. All right. George Carlin, it was a pleasure to meet you. And
Thank you.
Here we're still on the air. The license is intact.
Dave.
And tonight, University Bookstore, you can meet him in person. Brain Droppings. He'll be there. You'll be signing it. Telling
Yes,
people,
I will. I'll be signing it.
You're going to say best of luck to people?
No, I sometimes I personalize it, sometimes I don't. I just put my name. When I used to collect autographs, all I wanted was the person's name. Would they say to George? You know, I say, what do you have to do that for?
This to Dave. Root for the asteroid, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thanks for your courtesy. I appreciate it.
10:56. We'll be back.